So everybody, Justin Roethling, man, I'm saying his name wrong. Everybody, this is Justin Roethlingshoefer. Everybody, this is an interview with the performance master himself, Justin Roethlingshoefer.
Chauffeur.
Got it.
Chauffeur.
Dave, you edit this part out. I do want to say it right there. Please. Everybody, please welcome Justin. No. Hey everybody, this is John Sarakis, and you are either listening to or watching The Climb. The Climb is brought to you by the Digital Mastermind Group. The Digital Mastermind Group is a tribe of digital agency owners, marketers, technologists that keep in contact and share all the latest tips and tricks. And speaking of all the latest tips and tricks, we have our event in Las Vegas, but it's sold out. So if you'd like to join our waiting list, go ahead and shoot me an email, john@digitalmastermind.com. If you'd like to join the Digital Mastermind, use that same email. We'd love to talk with you. And today we have a very special show because we're talking about something that's very near and dear to a lot of us. It's about performance. It's about measuring that performance. There's a little bit of biohacking in there. There's a little bit of understanding who you are so you can get the most out of you and your business and potentially the people that are around you that you coach. So before I call out our fantastic co-host here, one thing I do ask is go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and leave us a comment or review. Any way that you can engage with the show is greatly appreciated. And Dave, why don't you come out here and tell us your experience with your own performance?
So I guess I really don't have much of it in the biohacking until I did keto starting last year. Okay. And I think that definitely, like, energy level wise, weight loss wise, focus wise, like everything just kind of like, wow. And so I learned it, weight loss and health is 90% what you put in your mouth.
So there's a lot of tracking with that, I'm assuming, right?
No. That's why I love it.
Really? There's no, well, okay. So it's more really just habits when it comes to the keto diet?
Correct. I mean, I guess you should track if you want to maximize it, but I'm happy with just the average performance, and I mean, you can eat as much fat as you want, as many calories as you want. You just can't eat any carbs.
Okay, because I have a pretty specialized diet as well. It's mainly based on some of it is performance based, right? I don't do caffeine, I don't do sugar. I'm like a gremlin, right? If it's fun, I pretty much don't consume it to some extent. But what about your sleep?
I used to monitor it, and I didn't really.
You don't track it, like you don't try to go to bed at the same time every night, so you wake up at the same time.
Nope. No matter what time I go to sleep, I wake up at the same time.
Ah, okay, all right. So you already have that clock. What do you? I aim for anywhere from like 7 to 8.5 hours.
So. Yeah, I need 7 is pretty much what I'm looking for. If I get any more than that, I usually wake up groggy. If I can operate as little as 5. No, it's just how I've always been. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't do consistently 5.
I can't nap. I don't nap during the day. I just can't. It's so hard,
Even like weekends, no naps?
No, can't. My brain just doesn't allow me to.
There's a saying in my house: it's not a weekend unless there's a nap.
I wish I could. I mean, it looks so nice.
Your nap envy.
Yeah.
What about
just lay there and think? And
so just lay there and think. So you kind of meditate-ish.
Kind of, yeah.
So what would you say? Like, what about routines? Have you ever looked at routines for your performance to say, like, okay, I do these things, I get a better outcome?
Can't really think of any.
Good thing this wasn't an interview directly with you about performance.
Exactly. No, that's why during this interview I was super intrigued because, I love data, first of all. I love trends. So I like his approach to what, this biohacking, this bio-tracking, whatever, is the same way I do it with business. And I try to get as real-time numbers as I can and put it into, my spreadsheet so that I have a visualization of how healthy the business is. And so when he was talking, that's basically what I was looking at is like how do I do this with the business? Now I love the ideas that I should be doing it for myself.
His tagline, treat your body like a business, which I love that tagline. That's pretty solid. And I track a ton of stuff. I journal a ton of stuff. I really look at the things. I keep a list of the things that sap my energy and sometimes everybody has a bad day, right? Everybody is bipolar to some extent, right? You have highs and you have lows. It's just you have extreme ones, and if you can really monitor the things that really suck out your energy, or sometimes it's the people too, right? I think we get into that a little bit in the show. To me, that's just that's something I'm continually striving for, right? That continual happiness. Even with food, it drives my wife crazy. Sleep is something that I know if I'm not getting decent sleep, like the 5 hours, I get 2 nights in a row, 3 nights in a row, 5 hours, I'm just absolutely miserable. And I'm going to crash and I'm going to upset people. And then it's all of these little ripples that come from that action. And then also exercising. I exercise at least 3 to 4 times per week. So making sure that I'm getting the most exertion out of myself. So I'm hitting my gains or whatever my goals. So yeah, I love this talk, and I love the idea of performance, and I love how you can link it to business or anything that you want to get better at or have perform better.
Do you think that your energy levels could be sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy though? Because since you are so used to this regimen, if you screw it up, now your mental state is like, oh no, disaster's coming because I didn't do this, and you kind of guide yourself into the disaster.
I think it's the opposite. I think I'm continually operating at a level that I can adapt when things go outside of it, but I can't so if it's 3 nights of poor sleep, all right, well that's fine. But if it's like 1 night, okay, I'm good. Second night, all right, I'm decent, and then third night, I'm not. Or if it's multiple situations of let's say it's multiple pitches in one day. Okay, I know I need breaks in between. I can do that one day. I start doing it too, and it's the same process. It's training yourself or taking care of yourself so you can ride at that optimum level. But you can't run a marathon every day.
So I have this lingering theory of, I'm not quite sure how to express it, but I feel like, when I started my business, it was a couple of years into it, I started feeling like my brain was operating at a higher level. I remember talking to you about this 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so I started thinking what would that be, and what is the cause of that? And I feel like there's different levels of how you can operate. And the first one is, most people are at this level, is just being in control of the now, being whatever I'm doing now is what I'm aware of. Then there's setting yourself up for the future. So what your actions are to get there. You're thinking about the future. And then the third level is, not only are you thinking about your now, you're thinking about your future, but you're aware of what other people are doing around you all at the same time. And then the fourth level is all three of those, plus being aware of others and anticipating what they're going to do next.
I think it comes down to mindfulness and awareness for sure.
Yeah. And you have to practice that, or you're just, you lose it.
Yeah. And that's why there's a ton of people out there talking about the benefits of meditation, and whether it's meditation or anything else, that helps you strengthen awareness and mindfulness. But you could just do it by listening very intently, understanding that every thought that pops into your brain isn't necessarily something that is going to evoke an emotion or whatnot. You can just be in control of it. And I think the other thing is patience. Patience builds confidence.
Yeah. I also, we've talked about recognizing patterns a lot, and I use that when looking at people. I just have that skill that I see somebody behaving in a certain way. I'm like, I've seen that before. They're about to do this, and then I can anticipate their move, and then I can position myself where I need to be.
Yeah. And that can really, with that too, when you can get to a point where you're almost reading tea leaves, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, okay, I can see this, and I think this is going to play out. And then when it does, it's this oddly rewarding feeling where you're like, yeah, I'm not trying to say I told you so, but this is how it was going to play out, and that's how it played out.
It's like unlocking a secret code when it works out, and you're like, wait, I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, only if we could do that with markets, right?
You can. You just have to do it from a very high position of power, which we don't do it. You can move markets right now. I mean,
I know, I get it. I mean, just seeing the market, not influencing the market.
Gotcha.
Right? Yeah, but no, and I think what we're both getting at here is just knowing yourself, and it's in different ways, and regardless whether it's tracking it in a spreadsheet or a wearable, or just sitting there and just being cognizant of the patterns around you. Awareness is what all of this comes to be, and then once you are aware, you know what to do with that knowledge.
Are you do you subscribe to the superfoods? Like, do you seek out superfoods, or
seems like they always change? Like, I like blueberry, it's a superfood. The acai berry, it's a superfood. And at the end of the day, I think it's what works for you is what works for you, not necessarily everybody else.
So in part of the interview, that's what I really liked. It. I mean, you have to journal that stuff. You have to track it to know what works for you. So for me, like, keto just worked. You know, it's the first diet that I've ever successfully lost weight and kept it, and you know, maintain it. I mean, every other diet's broken. So,
which other ones did you try?
I've tried them all. I mean, there was one that was, I've done the Atkins, which is close to keto, but keto only works with 0 carbs or extremely low amount of carbs. And Atkins is like, hey, just reduce your carbs a little bit. Well, it didn't create a rule for me, so I always broke it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I needed that hard line. So a lot of people would say, oh, but it's only got 5 grams of carbs per serving. And I'd always respond to them. But I know I'm not going to just eat 1 serving, because 1 serving is 3 crackers. Who's going to sit down and eat, crackers and just have 3?
It's so good. I'm done.
Right. Yeah, no. So I just no, I can't eat that, period.
I like that. And that's a great point. Anything that you want to be successful has to have a definitive level of clarity. Otherwise, that ambiguity is there. That's just a bunch of hope, and maybe you'll get lucky.
Laziness and everything lives in the margins, right? And if you we were just talking about a couple episodes ago, where if you give yourself 30 days to clean your house, it's going to take you 30 days to clean that house. If you give yourself 3 hours, you'll get it done in 3 hours. Yep. So these diets that give you that wiggle room, you will always take the wiggle room.
Yep.
So don't give yourself wiggle room.
And I do track everything I eat. So I don't, because I eat a special diet, I will lose weight and lose muscle mass if I don't eat like 4,000 calories a day. And I also do intermittent.
Michael Phelps.
No, Michael Phelps is eating Wheaties. I'm not eating Wheaties every morning. Right? But no, I burn a lot of calories. I have a naturally fast metabolism. But when you pretty much just eat greens and meats, it's like, okay, like, dude, like, you're continually burning, at a high velocity. So you have to consume a lot of calories, which is also very, very expensive. But I track everything. And it's one of those things. It's those days that I know I have to hit, I think it's like 4,100 calories. The days that I'm low, it's all right. I know. All right, cool. There's a 300 calorie deficit. There's a 500 calorie deficit. It's transferring that over to the next day. If it was just, hey, eat a bunch of food, well, that's way too ambiguous. I'm going to continually fail. And it's also that over necessary processing to gain that. So I like that. I mean, that's a takeaway. And I think that's why I've been successful in hitting those goals, and also maintaining the energy is a big deal, because it is so crystal clear.
And didn't you purchase one of the tools that he talked about?
I did. Yeah. I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah. I got the Whoop band, which I love, which was crazy. I was on, so we interviewed Justin, and then I think it was the next day I met with somebody else, and he was also a biohacker. So it was like, all right, this is the signs. Although I know Justin's company they're agnostic to the wearables. This guy was a huge proponent on the Whoop band, which sold me on it. And yeah, I highly recommend, if this is something that's interesting you, checking out, whether you have an Apple Watch or whatnot, or the Oura Ring or the Whoop band. It's just really cool, and it opens up a whole nother avenue of just really tracking your vitals and your heart rate, your sleep, your recovery, your strain, just really, really cool stuff.
You know what I would think would be incredibly interesting is if you compared your vitals after every purchase. Like take your credit card report, take your vitals, and see what purchases spike your vitals and which ones don't. That would be really interesting to me. Like economic biohacking.
It would. And everybody would fall into different patterns. I would fall into probably the most boring because I do so much research before I make a purchase that
then I would imagine you either have severe buyer's remorse or incredible. You would have extremes, I would think, because you put so much effort into the purchase. So you're either really disappointed or really satisfied.
Yeah, and I think and it also it's high involvement purchases, right? So, but yeah, I hate, and I look at it from time energy, right? So you buy, let's say, going into the workout side, you buy the wrong protein powder, well, then it's all right, cool. You're out $70, and if you don't like it, you can still return it. Now you got to go and drop the thing off. It's like, damn, I would rather spend half that time of the worst case scenario, or even a quarter of that time, make sure you're buying the right product. But it would be cool, right? Because they say the impulsive buyers, the people that get like a rush out of it, theirs would probably be just insane. They're so excited, and then you would see that heavy crash after.
Right. Because it doesn't live up to expectations or for whatever reason.
And you could track. So the thing is, there's a ton of activities in there that you could track. I mean, the only two that I know that are let's say like performative, right, would be like sleep and naps. But there's, like golfing's in there. You have, kayaking, and there's just a whole list. So it analyzes how you perform on those for those certain things.
Justin mentions a specific metric, and I can't remember exactly what it was. HRV. Does that do it on the Whoop band right there?
It does, yeah. Heart rate variable index. And the weirdest thing, and he mentioned it, I was like, did I hear that right? Is you want more variability in your HRV than less. So
that's interesting. Is that what is that? Because you're dreaming, and that's the most healthy sleep, or like what? Why would you want
your heart rate? Yeah, and no, your HRV is just throughout the day, right? So you have your regular heart rate, which is just like your beats, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. The spaces between those snaps, that's what you're measuring, and the variability, and that is a healthier heart.
I thought he mentioned just sleeping, just your HRV through your sleep.
So I guess we'll have to get our listeners to point that out, or we just edit this piece out because I don't know.
It's a good segue to the interview, though.
Yeah, I think so. All right, Justin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I love this.
All right, man. So with typically how we start this is we start with a question about your journey, your climb. So how did you get here?
Yeah, so really, if you go back to when I was probably 13 years old, and I was born in Canada, so had always been was born to play hockey. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a hockey player when I grew up, and I still remember I was leaving. I was playing AAA hockey. I was just leaving a game, and it said, "How do I become the best? Like, how do I continue to climb the ladder?" Because everybody was good. And my dad looked at me and he said, "Son, talent will get you noticed, but consistency will get you paid." And that's something that just really dawned and resonated with me in a really heavy way. And so from the age of 13, I just tried to figure out what was going to make me the most consistent hockey player. What could I do that was going to make me more consistent than everybody else and help me elevate and stand out amongst everybody that had talent. Everybody was good. And so when other kids were reading comic books, I was reading exercise physiology books. When other kids were memorizing player stats, I was memorizing the glycemic index. When others were learning about sandboxes, I was really wanting to learn about exercise physiology and sleep and those types of things. And so I continued down that path. And in December of 2020, I did a test at the University of Alberta back in Edmonton, and it showed me what my HRV was. It was a measure called heart rate variability that we did. And as I got a little deeper into it, and as I really started to look into it, I wanted to know, okay, what are the best at? And I was at 32, and they were at 85 plus. Like, those were professional athletes. So I was like, I need to get to that level. So I just started to do more. I started to train more. I started to run more. I started to skate more. I started to lift more. I started to take ice, cold showers. I started to take sleep in the cold. I would watch what I was eating. And the more I did, the more I watched my HRV drop. The more I saw myself lose weight, the more I saw myself kind of go backwards in the journey that I was supposed to go on. And it threw me right into the hospital with kidney failure, liver failure, and massive depression, frustration. And I was like, what did I do wrong? And the moment that I went in there, I started to realize what that it factor was. And the it factor is energy. The it factor can be measured. And that measurement is HRV. And so as soon as I kind of got out of the hospital and started working, I went and sought out the experts, sought out the doctors, sought out the trainers, sought out the strength coaches, sought out the nutritionist, the iridologist. I had this team around me that I just learned from. And even amongst that team of people I started to learn from, because I was so deep into HRV, I really wanted to know at a greater level what it was that was really driving it. So I was teaching them a lot about HRV, these experts, professionals that knew their area very well, and they were able to apply it over really quickly. So from the age of 13, 14, I became focused on HRV. And ultimately that took me through my hockey career. I turned the table really quickly and came down to the NCAA, had a little pro action, went and got my master's degree, some postdoctorate work, and then had a 10-year career working with the best athletes in the world, in the best hockey league in the world, in the National Hockey League. And then towards the latter part, after my third book I'd written, had an opportunity to work with and do a presentation for a major company here in the United States. And they asked if I would just consult with their executive team for the year. And I was like, sure. And that's where everything kind of grew in terms of where we are now with our company. So
you left hockey or NHL or whatever that organization is. I'm sorry. And
the National Hockey League. Yep.
Okay. So NHL, you left that to open your own practice. Was that because of this large company hired you, or was it just, hey, after 10 years, I'm done?
So about 2 years prior, I was like, you know what, when you reach a pinnacle of something and you're like, man, I thought there was more. I thought it would be more fulfilling. I thought it would really be the it factor, and it wasn't. And so I wanted to leave. I didn't know what to do. I was fearful of leaving, and doing something on your own is always scary. And you don't have that stability of a constant paycheck anymore. You don't have the clout or notoriety of the NHL next to your name as an everyday guy. And so I never really had the balls to do it, to be honest with you. And then I got fired. Our whole staff did, and that's really what propelled me into it. It was I say everything happens for a reason. I'm a big faith guy, and God was just preparing me for that moment with everything that happened prior to that, with having this company reach out, having me be involved with a lot of executive and leadership teams around the country, teams like Google and Amazon that I've been in those rooms and had the opportunity to show and talk about what it is that I do and how I do it. And it became very, it gave me a little bit more of a direction when the kind of the rug got pulled out from under me. But there's still that kind of recoil time of, okay, now I'm in it. Now I got to execute. Now I got to go. And I went back to that same saying of that my dad said when I was 13, so like 25 years ago, is, hey, talent gets you noticed, consistency gets you paid. Now go show up and go.
Yeah. And with what you were doing in the NHL, what transfers over to like everyday businesses, right? Most of our audience is agency owners, everything. Yeah. Like, what are those things?
Yeah. So it's funny that you asked that, because so often we sit here and we're like, okay, how do I optimize myself? How do I optimize what it is that I'm doing? And we, as business owners, this is the example I always give, is when we're preparing people in the National Hockey League, in the NFL, in the Major League Baseball, we have we have bye weeks, we have a mandatory week off during the year, we have Christmas break, we have All-Star break, we have these little intermittent breaks throughout the season. The season is typically 8 months, so you've got a 4-month off season. Your career, if you're lucky, will be 2 or 3 years in the big leagues. If you're really fortunate and really lucky and really good, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know any person running a business, running a team, running a corporation, running an enterprise that has All-Star break, that has an extended Christmas break, that has a 3-year career. That doesn't exist. You're expected to be on. The culture asks us to be on 365, 24/7. And when you look at it that way, it's impossible to perform optimally all the time. We live in this state of stress. We live in this state of overwhelm. We live in this state of overload, which puts us into this state of burnout. It puts us in this state of overtraining, if you will. That's what we call it in when we're working with athletes. And it has nothing to do about building resiliency. It has everything to do about coming back to allowing a little bit of regeneration to occur and building capacity. And when we have capacity to handle things, we now have the ability to actually execute on that resiliency that we're looking at pulling from. The other example I often give is that when we take a look at an athlete versus a entrepreneur, executive, or corporate leader, whoever you want to talk about, there's this seemingly inability to discern whether or not you're giving enough, or if you're just being soft because you don't actually want to go. And the statistics and what's out there it's actually stunning, where 1 in 7 people say that they feel pressured to go to work when they're sick or injured. 1 in 10 people say that if they take a day off due to sickness, they feel like they would be passed up for a promotion, or passed up for, or even reprimanded for it. The burnout rate in North America is 76% in executive leaders around the country. Forbes did a study in 2001, back in February, just came out. And it was an extrapolated study over the last 2.5 years. So this is even pre-COVID. They talked to 2,700 business leaders in 27 different industries. 85% of the business leaders said that they were burnt out, and it was showing it by a lack of energy. Of those 2,700 people that they question, this is outside the 85% that said they were burnt out, only 10% said that they were actually physically able to lead the way that they were meant to lead, and being able to utilize their talent due to a lack of energy. And so when we have companies and teams not being able to lead the way that we feel like we should, how do we expect to be able to perform consistently and at that level? And that's what's scary. And then the other part of that study was looking at the next generation coming up. And the next generation is looking at these business leaders working jobs that they're not fulfilled at, going through their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th marriages, being extremely overweight, extremely tired, extremely fatigued all the time, in exchange for wealth and money and financial success that is not even what it could be had we focused on the things that actually mattered and actually allowed you to build that resiliency and build that capacity to handle what's necessary to be consistent day in and day out.
Yeah, and so with it, and by the way, there's like a ton of background noise. Like, is there any way to create less background noise? Are you?
This is a great story. So I'm up in Canada right now. We just finished building our house. We got access to it yesterday. So they're in doing a couple other things right now. I'll try to mute it a little bit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And if it was just something that could happen, cool. All right. So, what can people do to create that type of consistency? Like, what does an optimum day look like? What types of break schedule should they have? Can you go into that?
Yeah, so I love that question because it gets asked a lot of experts, and a lot of experts will sit here on the screen and tell you, oh, you should take a break at noon, you should eat at this time, you should work out at this time, your morning routine should consist of this. And it's one of the worst pieces of advice you can ever get. And the reason is because everybody is different. Every single person is different. And so instead of me coming and just saying, hey, this is what you can use, this is what you can do, it's much more effective to be able to say, hey, how can I understand what's working for me and what's not, rather than just spewing out random ideas, random things that the most successful people do. Because I guarantee you take a look at a lot of these magazines that put out, like, I think People came out with one the other day. There was one in the business, the Entrepreneur magazine. There was one in Inc. the other day about, hey, here's Warren Buffett's morning routine. Hey, here's Grant Cardone's morning routine. And it's like 2.5 hours long. I guarantee you that's not what they're doing in the morning. I guarantee you they're not spending 2.5 hours to go in the cold tub, to do yoga, to do their morning affirmations, to journal, to do their interpretive dance, and then throw salt over their right shoulder. I guarantee you they're not doing that. It's a great marketing ploy, but I guarantee you that's not what's happening. And so what we need to do is we need to come back to the core purpose of what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. And it comes back to HRV. It comes back to that topic that I talked about first thing when we started. Heart rate variability is a measure of time intervals between your heartbeats. So when we say somebody has a resting heart rate of 60 beats per minute, that doesn't mean that their heart is beating. The R wave, the peak of the curve, is beating every second. It's not, that's not happening. One beat could be at 750 milliseconds. The next one could be 780 milliseconds after that. The next one could be 1.3 seconds after that. They're all variable. And the more variance between those beats, the better our body is handling stress, the better it is realizing everything that's going on within our body. And so what happens is we now have a measure. We now have something physically to look at. And our HRV score, the higher it is, the higher the variance between those beats. So if we wake up first thing in the morning, we see that our heart rate variability has dropped and it's trending downwards over the last week, the last 2 weeks, the last month, whatever we're doing, our body is not handling that stress and strain well. And thus we're in a state of overload. Thus, on the highway to burnout, the highway to lack of performance, to performance decrement, to performance issues along the way. And so that gives us the immediate informational piece, the immediate change that we can ultimately input and impact the way that we're showing up. So what are some of those things that we can do? Well, as to your point, if we wake up in the morning and we start to see a downward trend in HRV, well, we're going to need to know, hey, can I add in can I add in a workout? Can I add in some soft tissue work? Can I get some body work done? Can I get a massage? Can I spend an extra hour on myself? Can I go for a walk? Can I meditate today? Can I be a little bit more conscious and aware about where I'm spending my energy? And I'll get into that energy spending in a second, because it's a major concept that we talk about all the time, where we go away. We've been taught forever, time management is what it's all about. But you, me, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, we all have 24 hours in a day. And we're trying to manage something that's finite. You're trying to put something in a box that can't be put in a box because it's not going to change at all. But if we change our concept of that to now energy management, where we look at the energy in, energy out over the course of the day, now time becomes irrelevant. It literally becomes irrelevant, because what we can do now is we can now push whenever we truly need to. We can just pull from that, because we know that we've continually made deposits on the energy inside, and thus energy out will always be there. And that goes back to now our HRV score. When we create that rhythm of energy in, energy out, it will create an upward trend for us in HRV. And that is how we know that our energy rhythm we're creating is working for us or not.
What tracks HRV?
Really, so great question. Pretty much any wearable that you want. With us, we're wearable agnostic. So anybody that has an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, a Whoop Band, an Oura Ring, a Garmin, a Polar, you name it, all those things are pulling HRV. It's being able to understand and be able to look at it and know that that's the key metric that you're looking for. And then when it comes in with us, we're able to now take a look and apply it across the gamut for you.
Which one's the best?
So I love Oura Ring simply because it's the metrics it pulls are the most consistent that I've seen. I've done a lot of different case studies. I've done a lot of different scientific studies with some different universities around the country. And what we found is, again, that HRV score is most consistent through that. It's also one of the only companies that straight up admits and does not pull heart rate through activity, because they know that pulling heart rate from your finger, from your wrist, from anything other than a heart rate strap is not accurate at high levels of intermittent activity. Because what's happening is you're pulling pulse rate, not heart rate. And there's a difference. Heart rate needs to show that there's been an activation of the SA node, which is that firing of the left ventricle, versus pulse rate, which is just showing the blood's rushing through the artery, kind of where you feel for a pulse. It's very different than if you're measuring heart.
Got it. Now, you said everybody's different. You wear these wearables. So is there a way that somebody can just track this like on their phone, their heart rate variability, or do they have to use like another product to do that?
No. So you're always going to have an external measure. You're going to have something that does actually measure, like I said, something that's measuring your heart rate. Mm-hmm. There's products out there that you can measure your HRV first thing in the morning with a little finger monitor or a heart rate monitor. You can wear a heart rate strap throughout the night. The heart rate strap throughout the night is the most accurate. But a lot of the times these wearables have now started to pull this metric and this number due to its, again, efficiency to show how our body is actually handling stress and strain. And the TED Talk that I did, it's actually what I said was your energy has a number, and that number is HRV. And when we measure something, we can manage it. So say you have money in the stock market has a number. You know how it's doing every single day. You're measuring it. Your business, you can measure EBITDA. You know how your business is doing. You have diabetes. You're measuring glucose. Thus, so you can manage it. And so when you measure something, you can manage it. Now we can do that same thing with energy.
And then let's say that you wake up in the morning and you take a shower or you work out or whatever those things are. The more variability somebody has with whatever that activity is, the less good it is.
No, so it actually has nothing to do with the variance in activity. It has to do, so the variability is actually measured while you're sleeping. And so it's measuring the time at the lowest heart rate that you have. So heart rate variability and heart rate itself is actually inversely related. So the lower your heart rate gets at night, the lower your resting heart rate, the higher your heart rate variability is going to be, which is a good thing. And so that's why when you ask who typically has a good heart rate variability, it's people who are fitter have a better heart rate variability than somebody who's less fit. Somebody who eats really well has a better heart rate variability than somebody who doesn't eat well. Somebody who doesn't smoke has a better heart rate variability than somebody who does. Somebody who's hydrated has a better heart rate variability than somebody who is not hydrated. Somebody who gets a great night's sleep has a higher heart rate variability than somebody who doesn't get a great night's sleep. So all of these habits that you hear are now correlated back. And so heart rate variability, just like an energy score, it's also a measure of your overall health, how your body is handling the stress and strain that's being placed on it. Now, when we come back to this and we come back to ask, okay, what are the factors that impact HRV? What are the things I can do to improve it? We have a series of 8. So we talk about movement, we talk about exercise, we talk about nutrition, we talk about hydration, we talk about stress management, we talk about environment, we talk about mindset. And these 8 different factors are things that we have what we call our controllables. We can control each one of these things, and thus we can do things to manage them. So nutrition, for example, every single one of our clients, we do DNA and epigenetic testing. We ultimately see their food sensitivities, what's causing inflammation in their body. How do we help them eat for their genes? How do we help them recover for their genes? Can we work out based upon what our genetic predisposition is? How can we sleep more based upon what we're genetically predisposed to? All of these factors that, again, we can measure and analyze and have a greater impact on us. Because, again, the more data we have, the better, more intelligent questions we can ask. And when we ask more intelligent questions, we can ultimately decipher more intelligent answers.
So when it comes to stress, for instance, right? Like, what do you recommend there? Is that something that you're getting from the wearables, or somebody's like, oh, dude, your heart rate's going crazy. You were in too many Zoom meetings today. Like, what does that look like for leaders?
So that's the biggest thing about this is that HRV is it measures stress on your body. So mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. Your body doesn't know the difference between the two. So you just gave an example. You're on 8 Zoom meetings, some that are extremely stressful, some that are really causing you to problem solve, some that are really including some tough decisions. And you go for a workout later in the afternoon, your body doesn't know the difference between the stress the workout put on you versus what those conversations and the mental stress that you're under. It's equivalent. Now, your body's going to respond differently in terms of how you take it, but neurologically and from a principle standpoint, from a physiological standpoint, the stress induction on the body is the same. The stress response is the same. And so in knowing this, if we see that we have a trending downward HRV, we can now go, okay, I need to give myself some more intermittent breaks throughout the day. I need to focus on myself a little bit more. I need to make sure that I'm really putting myself first. And I need to have a little bit more engagement on the energy inside today. That's just what I need to do. If we continue to see that downward trend, we need to take a look at our habits in which we're engaging in daily. Am I not sleeping well? Am I not getting the sleep, the quality sleep that I need? Am I out of shape? Like, am I physically not spending time working out? Am I eating poorly? Am I eating a high fat, high sodium diet throughout the day? Am I eating a lot of processed foods? Am I not hydrated? Am I not drinking half my body weight in ounces throughout the day? Is my environment poor? Is it loud and noisy like it is for me right now all the time? Or do I actually have some quiet space? Do I have something that is my own, some place that I can disappear to? These are all questions that we can start to ask, and more intelligent questions based upon our HRV that we see every morning, and be able to apply it in a really strong and empowering way. Because otherwise, we're just throwing darts in the dark and we're just guessing. We're just doing something because Grant Cardone does it, and Inc. magazine told me that he has a 2.5-hour morning routine, and that's what I need to do to be successful.
So at what point does journaling come to as a piece of this, or is it all just data, and then from data you're pulling your information and making your conclusions?
So by journaling, are you meaning like as a part of like a morning routine type of action?
So like I journal, like if there's something that sucks, like I'm like, that sucks. I need to figure out a way to either have somebody else do that or remove that from my life. So I journal in the morning, in the evening, and like throughout the day. Like I have a book, like I track as much as I have. Is that a part of this process?
Yeah. So what that would be is that would be probably a part of your energy in. And actually, as we start to, like, if we were to get a little deeper into this, we'd actually find that your journaling may actually start to become a part of your energy out, because it's not a means to an end. It actually has a purpose and an intention throughout the rest of your day. Now, a lot of people that, and the reason I say that is because we had a client running $1 billion company, and they said every single morning their meditation sets up their day. Like they meditate so hard in the morning that they will then know how to guide the rest of their day. So that meditation stopped becoming a part of energy in for them. It stopped becoming something that gave them energy, stopped being something that was like energy producing, to something that actually took energy. It was energy expending.
Got it. Like taxes.
Exactly. And so the same thing may be happening with your journaling process, but that is still something that brings awareness for you. So what you can say is, you know what? You can still do it as a task, but know that it's something that's energy out for you. And you now need to counteract that with something that's regenerating, something that's like, I know you love to golf. Maybe it's that, you know what, today it's been a hell of a week. This afternoon from 4 to 5, I'm putting a meeting on my schedule, and I'm going to the driving range, and I'm just hitting balls, just not thinking about anything, but just in my own space. And that stress reliever, that relaxation factor, is completely going to change the way that your body can handle everything else. Because I don't want this to be misconstrued that we treat everybody with white gloves and that we can't get down and dirty. There's no grit to anything. It's actually the opposite. It's saying that down and dirty, getting in the trenches, getting gritty, that's necessary. We have this 4-quadrant system. And in the upper left quadrant is what we call overreaching. And overreaching is that nitty gritty, stressful based area. We have to spend time there. We have to be there. That's what helps us grow. That's what helps us get better. That's what helps us create. But we cannot spend 100% of our time there. For every amount of time spent in this upper left quadrant, trying to get on camera here, we need to come and spend time in this bottom right quadrant, which is called regeneration. And when we spend time back and forth rhythmically between these two, we end up meeting in the upper right quadrant, which is what we call ownership. And this is where you're empowering. This is when you're creative. This is when you're in flow. This is when you're positive. This is when you're leading at the best of your game. But if we don't have this rhythm and we just spend time here, or we spend it in out of balance, it's kind of like this. We don't meet up here in ownership. It actually flips, and we meet down here in the bottom left corner in what we call burnout, in what we call that's where you lack confidence. That's where you lack focus. That's where you lack the ability to think clearly. That's where you lack creativity. That's where depression happens, frustration, irritability, all those negative things, this conflict-oriented energy. And that's where it's come from. And that's where 99 or 90% of us spend our time, especially as business leaders. That's in that study that came out. The other 15%, that's where they were living. That's where they were orienting. And because of that, it was creating massive issue for everybody that they were leading, everybody that they were working with. And that is the true like epidemic that's happening.
So I've got a sensor on my phone that I can check my heartbeat or whatever. Can I use that to determine what my HRV is, or do I have to have something that I wear, that's constantly monitoring me like a Fitbit throughout my sleep cycle?
Yeah. So which sensor are you utilizing?
Samsung phone, and it just comes built into the cell phone. I don't really know what it's called.
Got it. So repeat the question again. I'm not sure I understand it.
Like, how do I figure out what my HRV is? I've got a sensor. Can I use this? Like
what do you hold your finger over your light day? Like what? Yeah, how does it read it? Okay.
I just put my finger on it.
That's interesting. So there's a lot of different things coming out now. And what we have to be careful of is that.
But this just tells me my beats per minute.
Correct. Exactly. And so all that's going to be giving you is your heart rate. And
okay.
So that's different than heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is, like I said, the most accurate heart rate variability is pulled with a heart rate strap.
And it's the gaps, right? So like this is your heartbeat if you're looking at it, right? It's getting the top, and then the between are the HRV. right?
Exactly. Over the course of time, and ideally over the course of when you're sleeping, because that's going to be your most the highest resting state, the most relaxed time that your body's showing you, hey, how did it handle everything that you've been going through up until this sleep tonight?
So is the Fitbit going to tell you this number, or do you have to like figure it out yourself?
No, it will. So in the Fitbit, in the Apple Watch, in the Oura Ring, in the Whoop Band, in the Polar, Garmin, you name it, it will all have an area that it shows HRV. Okay. And a lot of people just don't know about it. It's not something that's readily talked about. People just always look, oh, look, I've hit my full circles today. I hit my calories today. I hit my 10,000 steps today. I hit whatever, but they don't measure what actually matters. And the other thing that happens a lot of times now is, especially in the wellness space, is if we think about it, the wellness industry is a $40 trillion business, $40 trillion in the United States. And we're living in a time in which we're the most obese, we're the most burnt out, we suffer from hypertension at the highest percentage we've ever had before. So the money expenditure is going up, but yet the results are going down. It's going in the opposite direction. And we always have to ask ourselves, well, why? Because we have yet to truly identify the issue. We've got a lot of companies that have created a lot of amazing tools. I wear a bunch of wearables. I've got a Whoop Band, I've got an Oura Ring, I've got a heart rate strap that I wear every single time I work out. I've got a bio strap that I wear. Like I'm into all these things. I've been into it since I was 13 years old. And yet, the more that we look at this, each company thinks that their tool, their system, their process is the best. But yet we haven't given people the clarity, the understanding as to truly what's happening so that they can apply it in a way that makes a positive impact on their life. And the moment that we do that, the moment that we give that guidance, and quite frankly, that's what we try to do at Own It, is there is not one tool that we say, this is what you have to do. Everyone has to meditate. And you have to use our form of meditation. You have to go in a cold tub, and you have to use our cold tubs that we provide. Do our DNA test, and we'll find what vitamins you have to take, and take our vitamin product. Take a look at your DNA test and use our workout system. Use our workout machine, and you're going to get the best workout. Use our mattress. You're going to get the best night's sleep ever. Use our pillows. Use whatever it is. You look around at the marketing, and that's what I want to challenge you on, as well as you're going down into this, is anytime the science is put to show that what they do is the best, come back to, hey, why would I just focus on that tool? That's what we say at Own It all the time, is I love every tool that's ever been created, that has ever had a founder, that has ever had a group of investors come together. You probably created a great tool. I love all meditation. I love all diets. I love all exercise. I love all mattresses. I love everything. But I don't love everything for you, and I don't love everything for you all the time. There's a moment in which a certain tool should be utilized because your body's telling you it is. But now we need to get you to understand the metric that actually tells you what is correct for you and what is not.
So let's say you mentioned the quadrants, the far right one. If you're staring at it, I live in that world a lot, and I'll burn out. And then I have these different ways that I get reacclimated, I motivate myself. So I have this. Granted, I don't want burnout. It's something that I embraced when it happens, and I'm used to it. We have in our mastermind group, we actually have a yearly meeting that Dave and I have always said over the years that's kind of a big recharge. But granted, the older I get, the more I get burned out. So that being said, what does it look like for someone like me, right? Let's say whether it's your program or anybody else's, what's the optimum way that they would go about preventing themselves from burnout? And this is what I understand so far. Is it getting a wearable, tracking it throughout the day, getting your energy, and then making sure that things connect? What does that look like in a very cohesive, concise way?
Great question. So the process that we would take someone through, and it all comes back to awareness. You don't know what you don't know, but the moment you know, you better implement it. And if you don't implement it, well, then it's your own doing. So we come back to this. we get some type of wearable, we get some type of wearable technology to actually truly understand where your HRV is. We see that every single morning. It's the first thing you're looking at. Then what happens is we would then, and this is again kind of what we would take people through, is we get people into a DNA test. Why do we do that? And a couple of biomarkers. Why do we do that? Because we want to know what is creating inflammation in the body. Remember, stress and inflammation are very highly correlated. The higher stressed we are, the higher inflamed we are. It's no different in if we're exercising the wrong way. If you're built for speed and power, but yet you're running 15 miles every day, your body's having a hard time flushing the inflammation that's happening naturally just in what you're doing. But running is told to be really good for us, but maybe we just have to change it. Maybe we should be sprinting 5, 6, 7 sets of 1 mile and doing that over the course of the day. In the course of a workout. Or maybe we're doing HIIT classes, but we should actually be training for strength because that's what our body needs and that's what our body's going to respond to.
How do you track these things though, right? So like, how do you know what's a plus?
So in the DNA test that we'll provide, we'll know, hey, this is the exercise that works well with your body. This is how your body breaks down protein, carbohydrates, fats. This is what your body's missing on a micronutrient level of vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin iron, folate, zinc. This is the type of water that is going to optimize you. Is it iodized? Is it not iodized? Is it what pH balance is going to be optimal for you? How much do you need per day? All of these things. And when we don't know, ultimately what's going to end up happening is we're going to be adding this natural stress and inflammation to our body. So by looking at it in the morning and by knowing these 8 different quadrants, these 8 different cycles, things like I spoke about, hydration, exercise, stress management, immune function, environment, mindset, movement, all of these things are going to come into play, and we are going to help create the cycle for you and start utilizing these different things. So in your case, for example, you suffer from, you stay in this upper left quadrant, this overreaching quadrant all the time. Yeah, that's where you live. You play there. So what we need to find out, okay, where could, and what we would do is we would do what we call an energy load check. So what we would do is we'd break your month into 4 weeks. Then we'd break those 4 weeks we'd break down each week into 7 days, and we'd look at each day individually. We'd look at each day individually, each week, and then each month. Just 1 second. And so as we were doing this and we look at this, it comes to this point where there's this major imbalance. And what we end up seeing is that your energy out ends up being 10, 11, 12 hours every single day. And so what we say is anything that's energy out over 8 hours a day is considered a red day. Anything between 4 and 8 is considered yellow. Anything less than 4 is green. And so people say, well, are you telling me that I can't work anymore? Not at all. Why? Because you can still have a 9-hour workday. You could work for 9 hours, but you could put 5 hours into yourself that day. Say it's a Friday. You get up, you start working at, say, 7 o'clock, and you work from 7 until 10. You've put in 5 hours of that 9-hour workday. From 10 till noon, you go get a massage, you meditate, you sit in the steam room for a little bit, you come back, you work from noon till 5. And then at 5 o'clock, you go to the driving range for a couple hours, you go for dinner with your buddies. All of a sudden, that for you is a green day. It's net energy out 4 hours. And when we say 4 hours or less, it's green day. So getting now to understand this energy in, energy out rhythm, and we now take a look at your HRV. If we do that over the course of the week, maybe we have 4 or 5 red days, we have 2 green days, or we have 3 red days, 1 yellow day, 2 or 3 green days. We start to create this rhythm and what a lot of people call balance in your life. And we now start to see that your HRV trend will go from going downwards, which we probably would see with you. It might even go up one day because you had a little bit fun. You went maybe, I guess, I guarantee what we probably see with you, if we were to look at your numbers, is Saturday, Sunday, we'd increase. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we decrease. And that's the typical scale that we typically see. Even Saturday, sometimes we might see a dip because people go out and just get wasted on Friday or Saturday night because they need to blow off steam, but then they're fatigued on Sunday, so they don't do anything. They just lay on the couch. And then they start the week off behind the 8 ball again, and it just continues the trend downwards. And so that trend that we continue to see downwards would now be inverse because we have a better understanding of that energy rhythm.
What would somebody preach to their team? Because we have a fantastic team, but we're always worried about burnout, right? We're looking at what's forecasted, the types of projects they're working on. Are there any like high level indicators or communications that you would recommend for somebody for their team for this energy management concept?
100%. That's a great question. And as a leader of the team, the biggest thing, we need to institute boundaries. We need to institute boundaries for ourselves, number one, because boundaries become something that it's not a word on the wall. It's not loyalty. It's not commitment. It's not hard work. It's not something that like the people in the White Office or the people that are, leading the team are saying, hey, this is what we need to do. It's truly understanding that this is what we live by. This is our culture here. And so it's setting boundaries. It's after 6 p.m., you don't send emails. You don't send company emails. If you send it at 6 p.m. or you send it at 7:30 or 8 o'clock the next morning, is it going to make or break anything? 95% of the time, the answer is no. And so it's setting boundaries. No emails after a certain time. Mandatory. 2 days off per month. You have to take 2 days off per month. If you have 24 days of vacation time a year and it's, call it November, and you still have 24 available, you haven't looked after the company the way that you should have. It goes back to the same concept. If the airplane is going down, whose air mask do you put on first, yours or your child's? It's always yours. Because if you don't have the energy, air, and you go down by putting on theirs, who else can you help? Nobody. And so it's having the conversation. It's creating that type of culture in your space as a leader. It's bringing speakers in. It's having a coaching system that's teaching energy management to your team. It's being able to understand, I don't understand this the way that I should, and being able to say I don't understand it, and having somebody come in and teach it, or having somebody come in and talk about it. Knowing that the health of your team, the health of your employees, the health of the people around you is really the lifeline of your business. And if you can make sure that your team is operating at 80, 90, 95% on a consistent basis, who do you think is going to win? The guy that's showing up, grinding his way through everything at 60% and is always there? Or the people that are there at 95%, 5 days, 6 days a week when they're supposed to be there?
Right. Consistency. And you touched on this a little bit earlier. What are the myths out there that should just be completely thrown away?
So one, that a morning routine makes you successful. 2 is that what works for you is something I should mimic. 3, that time management is something that you should completely do. Like, it should rule your life. And it's not time management, it's energy management. 4, that downtime is wasted time. Downtime is productive time. Downtime, if used right, is that energy in time, is that refueling, so that you can come back at that 95% of you that you're looking at doing. You can work harder when it's work time. And 5 is, a lot of times we think about life as a marathon. And life is not a marathon. What do you think about the marathon runners? They're skinny, they're scrawny, they're tired, they're sunken. It's just drudging on. Life is a series of high impact sprints.
I love that. Yeah. And I hate running.
There you go.
My hell is data entry, running, and raking. Like if I have to do those three things, like those are definitely
That's a tough day.
Yeah. What are some solid re-energizers for the most part that people might not get enough of? You said downtime. Like what does downtime look like?
Yeah. So when we're talking about like the re-energizing factors, and this is where again I hate this answer because it's different for everybody. But I have a client, and I'm just gonna give some examples of, because everybody knows the meditation, everybody knows the steam room, the hot tub, the cold tub, your journaling, like all those ones that everybody talks about. But I have a client that he absolutely loves getting his hair cut and getting shaves. So every Wednesday, every single week, he's going to the barber every Wednesday. 1 week he gets a haircut, the next week he has a hot shave. And that's his time. He leaves his phone, an hour, he's gone. He gets a smoothie on the way there. He comes back, and then that's his hour every Wednesday in the middle of the day. That's just something that he does for energy and for him. That's something he added. He goes, I love it. Can't believe I didn't do this more often. Going to the driving range. I gave that before. Super easy to go and just hit balls for an hour, a couple days a week. Going and it sounds crazy, but shopping. Like a lot of people say, hey, I just love to go and shop, or just browse through the mall and just do it like aimlessly, or
getting really present with the things that bring you pleasure.
Really, exactly. Things that are just truly like, when you're in it, it's just like you feel the stress melt away. You literally feel yourself just shut everything else out. And another way to think about that is, what is something that you only do for you? Like, what is something you only do for you? It's not trying to please somebody else. You're not doing it for a purposeful outcome, like the journaling you talked about. You're not doing it for to evaluate how something's feeling or how something else is going to occur. You're just literally in it, and you're in it for the right reason, and the reason is you.
So, from everything I'm hearing, I just would love to know, what is your perception of social media and people's use of social media then?
So again, I'd be a hypocrite if I said I didn't like it for the act of marketing and having a presence and being aware. I mean, for its connectivity of people, I don't think there's a better way. I mean, you see the way the world's going now with blockchain and the NFTs, and it's only going to become a greater part of our society and a greater part of our what we do.
But I mean, in terms of like energy suck or energy.
Oh, I mean, and that's kind of where I was coming to, is we have to make sure that we are using it and it's not using us. I've fallen victim a number of times, and I had to actually put a system in place for myself where when I picked up my phone, I check my HRV, and then the next thing I do is I go check Instagram, and the next thing I do is I go check Twitter, and then the next thing I do is I check my emails, and then I'd go back through that whole cycle again. And
do you think that is an energy in or an energy out?
Massive energy out. Massive. Okay. Because what happens when you go on social media? You start comparing yourself to others. You start looking at what other people are doing and where you're not. Your presence, you could have a beauty. Like if I look outside right now, I've got beautiful mountains. I've got beautiful trees. It's just fresh snow. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But instead, I'm looking at some guy who's on the beach on a boat, hanging out. And I'm like, man, like.
So what about if it gives you pleasure to brag on social media? Then it could be no, just kidding. I think it's a huge energy suck. I quit all social media. I've been social media free for like 5 months, and it's had a profound impact on my focus and everything.
It's amazing what happens. And the first thing that we usually dive into a lot with our clients as well is like, get all the notifications shut off your phone.
Correct.
Get all the notifications shut off, because you'll check it when you have a purposeful moment to check it, and when it's on your time. So if you think about this for a second, talking about social media and energy, whenever a notification comes through on your phone, it's basically hijacking your attention to say, hey, look at me now, not whatever it is that you were doing. It's an immediate focus breaker. It's immediate flow breaker. And if we don't have systems set up to do that, we're constantly, and we don't think about this, but we're constantly thinking about the energy flow. I have energy on you guys, then something goes off. Now I have energy here. Now I have to bring it back. And constantly bringing that energy and focus back, it's exhausting. You go to athletics for a second. And the best tennis players, when they're in match, you watch their eyes are literally watching this ball that's traveling 165 miles an hour. And it's like it's effortless. But the moment, even the best players, Roger Federer, Andy Roddick, you look at Rafael Nadal, you look at these guys, when there's noise made in the stands, why do you think if you go to a tennis match, you're not allowed to like yell or scream or when they're serving? It's because if anything comes into that field of play, it's something that's pulling their energy away from the purpose and intention of what they're doing. Same thing when you're golfing. John, when you're golfing in a golf swing, like if you talk or say anything during a backswing, like where does your energy all of a sudden go? And now the energy it takes to bring it back, it's only the best. Like Tiger Woods, you've seen do it a couple times where he's up swinging, somebody says something mid-swing, he's able to stop it and able to reset and go again. Other guys, it's just right, way off to the right, way off to the left.
I've used it as an excuse many a times. Like, what was that?
For sure. That? Hey, did you hear that? It was him. But that's exactly like kind of going off on a tangent a little bit, but kind of bringing it back to your question. That's truly what it comes back to, is being able to be so focused on the energy of where you're at and being present with that. And the constant having to be pulled in a multitude of directions. Multitasking is the key to failure, because your energy is never one place.
Would you say it's important to have the habits in place? It sounds like you have the habits in place rather than wait for the notifications to notify you. No crutches.
Always. So like, for example, I give myself usually the last 15 minutes every 3 hours to check my phone. Like check my notifications from social media. So I go to Instagram, I go to Twitter. I put them away. I check it 3 times a day. Done. That's 45 minutes total throughout my day. Before, it was probably close to 3 or 4 hours. Not because I was doing anything more, but because I was just constantly there. It was a constant habit and rotation I was going into. Now we talk about managing time. If I was managing time, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to give myself, there's no way I can get all the social media I need to be done in 2 hours today. There's just no way, because I've been on it for 4.5 hours. But when I manage energy and now I go in with a purpose and intention, I'm able to buzz through everything I need to in 15 minutes, no big deal. And now having 45 minutes on Instagram throughout the whole day, well, now I've been given, if you're talking about time, I've given myself back 3 hours and 15 minutes that I can do more intense, more purposeful, more impactful work on something else. And that is why time now becomes obsolete, because I have the more energy to show up in the way that I should in every other moment that I'm awake throughout the day. And knowing that when we are awake, you have 2 options. It's either an energy in or it's an energy out, but you have to know which one it is.
That's a great example.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've interviewed, tons of people. This is like our 66th episode here. And I hear this theme over and over again. And I think you pretty much nailed it. And I hear everyone talk about it, but it's being purposeful in everything you do, whether it's, you call it energy in or energy out, or it's your social media, or it's business, or it's your processes. I mean, from entrepreneurs over and over again, being purposeful with what your effort is and cut out the waste and cut out the negativity and cut out the randomness. And I just think that's great. So, I mean, I'm really hearing what you're saying by just making sure your effort, your energy that you expend is purposeful.
No, yeah, I love it. And that's exactly it, is the more purpose you can have, the more intention you can have, the more self-awareness you can have, emotional intelligence. It's being called a lot now. That's, I think, if you talk about buzzwords, that's going to be one of the buzzwords for the next 10 years. You can really, truly make a difference and being more present with where you are at. We always just say, be where your feet are.
Right.
So this is kind of a softball off the side question. Who is the best hockey player of all time?
I mean, Patrick Marleau just played just past Gordie Howe as the most NHL games played in NHL history. So, I mean, I wouldn't call him the greatest player of all time, but I mean, to play just under 1,800 NHL hockey games, like that's pretty darn good. In terms of overall skill, and again, I'm going to give you a wishy-washy answer, and I wish I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to give you a wishy-washy answer. Is in the current day and age, I would say Alexander Ovechkin, simply because he can do it all. And if anybody has ever played hockey, you know how hard it is to score a goal. And the guy's scored over 800 goals in the NHL. Like that is just that's asinine. It's crazy to think about. It's unbelievable to fathom. Like, forget the assists. Like, you throw the puck to the net, it goes off somebody's butt 5 times, and then somebody taps it in. Like, you're on the scorecard, okay? But like, to actually score a goal and be in a place to put it by the goaltender that's elite and everything else that's going on like that, I'd have to say Alexander Ovechkin. But way back when, I mean, it's hard to compete with Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, man.
So I had to jump in on this because you mentioned longevity, and I hate when people use longevity as a level or a measure of elite performance. Like, I'm in the book of Cal. Yeah.
How though? Because you gotta survive. Like, okay, you know what?
My best example. Hold on. Let me give you my argument first. Jerome Bettis is in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
He had a long, successful career, but not once any year that he played was he ever the best at his position. How does somebody like that, you have never been the best once, deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
How many Super Bowls did Jerome Bettis go to?
I don't know, like 2? I don't know.
So I think he's the best as a teammate, not necessarily for himself. He was able to make the team do. It's not all about those.
That's not what the Hall of Fame is.
Okay,
we do not put in the sixth man does not go into the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so I have to look at this. So
the bus, Jerome Bettis.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Cal Ripken, for example,
won 2 Super Bowls. Okay, yeah. So that means that exactly what John said. He was a part of a team that was the best twice.
Yeah, there's tons of people that have won 2 Super Bowls.
But he was also, I mean, but the running back, I mean, if you, I haven't got into his, well, I'll just call him graphics or his KPIs, but I would bet that those are at the top of running backs that went to Super Bowls.
No,
totally.
There's tons of running backs that have won 2 Super Bowls, and they're not
aren't in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean,
name one. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
It's Curtis Martin. He hasn't even won 2 Super Bowls.
One, exactly.
Super Bowl is not typically accredited to the running back.
About this. I mean, and this is the same question that's going to come up about. Why can't I? His name is Julian Edelman. Same thing that's going to come up now is Julian Edelman has won 4 Super Bowls, but yet there's a couple of people that have said, like, you're not a Hall of Famer because you've never been an All-Pro, you've never led the league, you've never done all these things. But I guarantee you, like, the New England Patriots don't win the Super Bowl without Julian Edelman on a couple of those occasions. And so
Hall of Fame means a career of excellence. And
which I would agree Jerome Bettis is, because how many times in the last – you're on the 2-yard – okay, put it this way. You're on the 2-yard line. You're down by 6, and there's 2 seconds left in the game.
Marshawn Lynch.
I'm going to say, if you have Jerome Bettis on your team, thanks. Don't ask Pete Carroll.
Right.
You're on the 2. And you got Jerome Bettis on your sideline. Who are you giving the ball to? Step on up, Jerome. You called the bus for a reason. Take it home.
No, I get it,
but that's the thing. Like, there's a reason why he wasn't leading the league in rushing yards. Is he wasn't a Marshawn Lynch. He's not a
Eric Dickerson or
was
Barry
he
Sanders.
He averaged, like, I think he averaged like 2.1 yards a carry.
Right.
It's because he only ever had to go 1.5 yards.
That was only in the end of his career, though. I mean, The majority of his career, he was the
playing the best players in the world for 13 years,
right,
and winning Super Bowl. So I think
and never once won a rushing record. That's just the premise.
But we just talked about why that was.
I mean, any metric. He's never led the league in any metric. Maybe goal line touchdowns. That might have been the only.
Which is a pretty big stat.
I think to be able to compete at the professional level, being the best athletes in the world, and the longevity, it's insane because genetics are a part of it. Skill is a part of it.
And being
all these things have to go together.
Like if we're going back to Patrick Marleau, like the guy was impactful and is still impactful. He had 2 points in his record-breaking night. Like
we're not talking about are they good and are they productive. I'm saying we're talking about the greatest. He asked you the greatest, and I think if longevity is a major point in your greatest, I just don't agree. Because
like the greatest basketball player of all time.
Who are you asking?
Yeah, I'm asking you. Yeah.
I think Michael Jordan. He didn't have the longest career, but man, he was just.
He had a pretty long career, didn't he?
He did. He's really screwed it up by trying to go play baseball in the middle of it.
For sure. I mean, but you can come back to it, and I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I think longevity comes into it at a certain point because. If
you have to have at least a certain amount of longevity.
LeBron James only played for 2 years. No one would ever put him in the same boat as Kobe or Michael. Or
I think the longevity is a huge factor. Nobody's ever going to be considered one of the greatest if they've only done 2 years or 3 years. Like you have to have a career, and it has to span. I don't know. I'm sure somebody could run the data out there. A substantial long time for people to make that decision. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback that's ever lived. It's like, he's in the silver.
The fact that you're playing at 45 years old, you will be playing. You are on contract to potentially play at 50 as a quarterback in the NFL.
That has nothing to do with his greatness.
Oh, yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. It's his performance on the field. His age and how long he's done it has nothing to do with how good he's on the field.
But he wouldn't be.
I know it's affecting your.
But again, it's the same reason why, like, what Patrick Mahomes is doing at 23, it's nothing compared to what Tom Brady's doing at 45.
Right, but I mean,
because of longevity, like if
Tom Brady was doing the things he's doing when he was in his second year, he would still be one of the great performers.
But he wouldn't be able to do that without the duration of time. So I think it's something you can't remove. All right.
Yeah, whatever.
I like this debate, though. This is a good one. I could go on and on with this one.
All right. I know we've covered a lot. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that the world should know?
It comes down to energy management. If you can focus on energy management, if you change your concept of time and focus on energy, if you take that focus on energy and now measure it, you can then manage it, and ultimately you can change your life.
Perfect. I love it. And how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So if you go to justownit.co, a lot of information there. But for anybody watching, anybody wants to know more about HRV, if you go to masterinthesixminutes.com, and that's the number 6, numerical 6. So masterinthesixminutes.com. You can get a full downloaded PDF video series of what HRV is and what it means.
Love it. Last question. How much can you bench press, and what was your heaviest squat?
Heaviest squat, front or back?
Great question. I would say back because it would probably be heavier.
Back squat, 485.
Okay. All right. Light. That's a little light. All right.
Bench is a little bit light. Bench is 305.
Okay. Oh, all right. That's still all right. That's some weight, All right. It sounds like when we get together for golf, I'll show you some techniques on how to get a heavier lift,
or just some better techniques of how to keep it in the fairway.
Awesome, man. Justin, thank you so much for joining us, man. This is a lot of fun.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I apologize for the noise.
Oh, no worries, man. And then we'll just cut all this out in the editing. Yeah, let's definitely do golf. I'm still looking at some dates, but you're in Naples. You want to meet halfway? Naples is like 4.5 hours for me. Can you meet?
Yeah, we can. Okay. We can do. Like, we should try to do something. We've got friends up in Sarasota, and what's that beach there? Why did it break?
I don't know. Sarasota Beach.
Siesta Key. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Cool.
We should meet up right there. Because I can drop my fiance off with her friends, and we can go and hit the links.
Awesome, dude. All right, sounds good. I'll look at those dates, and then this will be out in a few weeks. We'll tag you on it on social media, share the hell out of it, and I'll send you an email on like how you can contribute. But awesome, dude. So yeah, you'll see an email from me with the dates that work for you and your fiance. I think a lot of those are still open, and then we'll go from there, man.
Awesome. That sounds great.
All right. Thank you so much again, buddy. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, John. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye now.
Bye.